Welcome, dear friend, and thank you for choosing to rest here for a while in this quiet sanctuary we have prepared for you. This story was written with the simple, gentle hope of helping your mind grow still and your body find ease, guiding you softly toward a night of deep and peaceful contentment. If this tale brings you comfort, a simple tap of the like button, a subscription, or a kind comment is always so deeply appreciated. Tonight, we will be visiting the Hall of Hours Unuttered, a place of profound and welcoming silence. Prepare to step across a threshold where the hurried world fades away to discover moments of perfect stillness you can hold in your hand and to feel the gentle, unheard music that can quieten the soul. Here, you may find a respite that lasts long after the story ends. Chapter 1. The Threshold of Silence. The path that led to the Hall of Hours Unuttered was a quiet one, trod into the soft earth by the footsteps of those who sought stillness. Soren walked it with a slow and even pace, the air growing cooler and carrying the clean scent of damp soil and the distant promise of rain. There was a sense of approach, a feeling that the world was gently holding its breath. The trees grew more sparse, their leaves rustling with a softer, more considerate sound, as if they knew they were nearing a place that revered quiet above all else. His journey had been long, guided by whispers and feelings more than maps, and a deep sense of peaceful arrival settled over him. Before him, at last, stood the entrance. It was a great archway of smooth, pale wood that seemed to have grown directly from the earth, its grain swirling in slow, languid patterns that spoke of uncounted peaceful seasons. There was no door, only the open invitation of the arch itself, a perfect curve against the soft gray sky. The very air around it felt different, heavier, and yet lighter all at once, thick with a silence that seemed to have a physical presence. The faint scent of something clean and ancient, like polished wood and cool, deep earth, drifted out to greet him, a gentle welcome from a world apart. Soren paused at the threshold, taking a slow, deep breath. The air he drew in was crisp and pure, and as he exhaled, it felt as though he was releasing the dust of his travels, the hurry of the outside world, the many small noises that accumulate in the mind throughout the day. He felt the muscles in his shoulders begin to loosen, a gentle letting go he had not even realized he needed to do. The transition was palpable, a clear line drawn between the world of sound and the world of profound, thoughtful silence that lay just a single step away. With that one step, he crossed into the hall. The change was immediate and absolute. All the tiny sounds of the world he had grown accustomed to, the whisper of wind, the rustle of his own clothing, the very beat of his heart in his ears, all faded away. They were not silenced forcefully. They simply dissolved into a quiet so complete and so gentle that it felt like being wrapped in the softest of woolen blankets. The silence was a present, warm and welcoming, a soft weight that settled his thoughts as surely as a hand on a frightened animal. He found himself in a small antechamber, the same pale, seamless wood of the archway curving up to form the walls and ceiling. The space was filled with a gentle, sourceless light, a soft glow that seemed to breathe with a slow, steady, and calming rhythm. It was a light without a lamp, a luminescence that was simply part of the hall itself, bathing everything in a tender, pearlescent sheen. Soren stood there for a long time, allowing the quiet and the light to wash over him, to seep into his very bones. His gaze drifted downward to the floor. It was made of vast, smooth slabs of a dark, polished substance, so seamless it looked like a frozen lake at twilight. The gentle light of the chamber reflected softly on its surface, creating shifting patterns that moved with the slow pulse of the walls. The air, he noticed, carried a clean, mineral scent, the smell of the floor itself, a fragrance like cool, damp earth after a long and cleansing rain. It was the scent of stillness itself, pure and ancient. He took another slow step forward, the soft soles of his boots making no sound at all on the polished surface. A feeling of immense peace began to fill him, a sense of having finally arrived at a place he had been seeking his entire life without ever knowing its name. The hurried thoughts that had accompanied him on his journey, the little plans and memories, began to settle like dust motes caught in a still sunbeam, drifting slowly downward until his mind felt clear and open. Here, at the threshold of silence, Soren felt the journey was truly beginning. He was not an intruder in this quiet place. He was a welcome guest. The hall itself seemed to acknowledge his presence with its steady light and its deep, comforting quiet. He felt a gentle curiosity bloom within him, a desire to see what lay deeper within this sanctuary of stillness, a place where time itself seemed to move at the pace of a slow and even breath. Chapter 2. The Currency of Stillness. Moving from the antechamber, Soren entered the main expanse of the hall, and the sheer scale of it made him pause in gentle wonder. The ceiling soared to an impossible height, a single continuous vault of the same pale-breathing wood, its grain spiraling in vast, slow eddies. The soft, internal light was stronger here, yet just as gentle, illuminating a space so large that its farthest reaches were lost in a soft, hazy distance. The air was cool and still, carrying that clean, earthy scent he had first noticed, now mingled with a faint, warm aroma like beeswax. The floor stretched out before him, an unbroken plain of those same dark, polished slabs, reflecting the vaulted ceiling like a great, calm body of water. Scattered across this vast expanse were countless objects that gleamed with their own soft, internal luminescence. They were thin, smooth discs, varying in size from a small coin to the palm of his hand. Their colors shifted in the gentle light, some a deep, smoky gray, others holding hints of softest lavender or a pale, watery green. He understood, with a certainty that needed no words, that these were the unuttered hours. He knelt down, his movements slow and deliberate in the profound quiet. His fingers brushed against the surface of one of the discs. It was perfectly smooth and cool to the touch, like a river-washed pebble. Yet as his hand lingered, a gentle warmth began to radiate from it, a comforting heat that seemed to answer the warmth of his own skin. The object had a pleasing weight, a sense of substance and reality. Its internal light pulsed in a slow, steady rhythm, a tiny captured heartbeat of a forgotten peaceful moment. Soren picked one up, a disc the size of his palm that glowed with a soft, silvery light. Cradling it in both hands, he brought it closer, observing the delicate smoke-like wisps that drifted within its translucent depths. A soft, low hum began to resonate from it, a vibration so gentle it was felt more than heard, traveling up his arms and settling in his chest. It was a deeply calming sensation, a physical manifestation of peace that soothed him from the inside out. He closed his eyes, simply feeling the gentle warmth and the quiet hum, the two sensations weaving together into a single chord of tranquility. He spent a long while just like this, moving slowly from one cluster of hours to another, a quiet wanderer in a field of captured time. Each disc he touched had its own unique character. One felt as warm as sun-drenched wood and hummed with a slightly deeper resonance. Another was cooler, its light a pale blue, and its vibration felt like the gentle lapping of water against a quiet shore. He realized he was not just seeing them, but feeling the essence of the moments they held, the perfect stillness of a snow-covered field at dawn, the quiet contentment of a sleeping child, the silent awe of watching a star fall. Linnea, the hall's keeper, appeared as if from the soft light itself, her movements as silent as the space she tended. She gave him a small, kind smile, her eyes holding the same deep peace as the hall. She carried a soft woolen cloth, and with a slow, circular motion, she began to polish one of the larger owls nearby. As she worked, its inner light grew brighter, and the warm, comforting scent of beeswax and chamomile filled the air around her. Her simple, focused action was a lesson in itself, a meditation on care and quiet purpose. She gestured for him to join her, offering him a cloth of his own. Soren accepted it, its texture soft and thick in his hands. He chose a small lavender-hued owl and began to mimic her gentle rhythmic polishing. The simple repetitive motion was deeply soothing, focusing his mind on the smooth surface, the growing warmth, the brightening glow. It felt less like a chore and more like a quiet conversation with the object in his hands, a way of showing gratitude for the peace it held. Together, they worked in a shared, comfortable silence, two quiet figures in the vast, glowing expanse. The only sensation of sound was the gentle, pervasive hum of the thousands of hours around them, a chorus of stillness that filled the hall to its high, vaulted ceiling. Soren felt a profound sense of belonging, of having found a task that was in perfect harmony with the deep desire for peace that had brought him here. He was no longer just an observer. He was a participant in the hall's quiet life. Chapter 3. The Mute Tolling. After some time spent in the gentle work of polishing the hours, Linnea guided Soren toward the far side of the great chamber. Here, set against the curving wall of pale wood, were long, unadorned benches. They were crafted from a much darker wood, almost the color of the floor slabs, and their surfaces had been worn to a soft, satin-like finish by long ages of quiet contemplation. The very sight of them was an invitation to rest, to sit and simply be. The air here felt even more still, and the gentle light seemed to pool around the benches in a soft, welcoming glow. Soren chose a spot and sat, the smooth, cool wood feeling solid and reassuring beneath him. The bench was built at a perfect height, allowing his feet to rest flat upon the floor, and he felt his whole body settle into a posture of easy, comfortable repose. He rested his hands in his lap, the soft woolen polishing cloth still loosely held in one of them, its faint scent of chamomile and beeswax a comforting presence. He let his gaze soften, looking out across the vast, softly lit expanse of the chamber floor, where the thousands of unuttered hours pulsed with their gentle internal light. It was in this deep state of physical rest that he began to perceive the hall's true secret. At first, it was just a faint feeling, a subtle vibration in the soles of his feet, traveling up from the dark, polished floor. He focused on it, letting his breath deepen and slow to a gentle, even rhythm. The sensation grew stronger, a steady, resonant thrumming that was not a sound he could hear with his ears, but something he felt in his very bones. It was a deep, pervasive hum that seemed to come from the hall itself, from its walls, its floor, its very foundation. This, he knew, was the mute tolling. It was the unseen bells he had heard whispers of, a soundless ringing that marked a different kind of time. The vibration was incredibly slow, like the breathing of a mountain, a deep and steady pulse that moved through him. He felt it in the wood of the bench against his back, a gentle, massaging rhythm that seemed to be coaxing the last vestiges of tension from his muscles. He closed his eyes, and the sensation became his entire world, a quiet, resonant song that filled him completely. The tolling was a deeply calming influence. It felt ancient and wise, a rhythm that had been beating long before he arrived and would continue long after he left. In its presence, his own thoughts, which had already grown quiet, seemed to slow even further, aligning themselves with this profound and steady pulse, the small worries and lingering cares he had carried with him, burdens so familiar he had ceased to notice them, began to feel distant and unimportant. The mute tolling gently loosened their grip, shaking them free like dust from a heavy cloak. He could feel the resonance vibrating in his chest, a comforting hum that seemed to match the quiet hum of the hour he had held earlier. It was as if the entire hall was one great, peaceful instrument, and by sitting here, he had become a part of its gentle music. The air itself seemed to shiver with the silent tolling, each particle of dust dancing to its slow, invisible rhythm. The sense of old wood and the clean, mineral aroma of the captured hours seemed to hang in the air, carried on these silent waves of vibration. Soren sat for a measure of time that had no name, completely absorbed in the sensation. It was a feeling of being held, of being part of something vast and peaceful and eternal. The boundary between himself and the hall seemed to soften and blur. The gentle pulsing light from the hours on the floor seemed to sync with the slow, deep thrum of the tolling, and his own heartbeat felt as if it was slowing to match them both. He was not just in the hall was in him. He felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over him, a quiet thankfulness for this place and its profound, simple magic. The mute tolling asked nothing of him. It simply offered its steady, calming presence, a constant reminder of the deep, abiding peace that lies beneath the surface of all things. In its silent, resonant song, he found a stillness more complete than any he had ever known. Chapter 4. A Conversation with Quiet. As Soren rested on the smooth wooden bench, enveloped by the deep, resonant hum of the mute tolling, Linnea approached with the same unhurried grace that defined all her movements. She carried a small tray made of the same dark wood as the bench, upon which sat two simple ceramic cups, their surfaces a soft, creamy white. A gentle curl of steam rose from each, carrying a delicate, sweet scent that reminded Soren of hay warmed by the sun and a hint of a gentle spice, perhaps cinnamon. Her presence was a comforting addition to the quiet, a soft note in the hall's silent symphony. She offered him a cup, her hand steady, her smile gentle and sincere. A warm drink helps one to listen more deeply, she said, her voice a low, soft murmur that seemed to become part of the silence rather than break it. Her words were few, chosen with care, each one landing as gently as a falling leaf. Soren accepted the cup, its warmth seeping into his palms, a pleasant counterpoint to the cool air of the hall. The ceramic was smooth and pleasingly solid, a simple, well-crafted object that felt good to hold. They sat together on the bench, sipping the warm, fragrant tea. It tasted as gentle as it smelled, a mild, sweet brew that warmed him from the inside, its comforting heat spreading through his chest. They did not speak for a long time, and the silence between them was easy and full of shared understanding. It was a conversation held not with words, but with shared presence, with the simple act of sitting together and appreciating the profound peace of their surroundings. This quiet companionship was a balm, a reassurance that he was not alone in his reverence for this place. Eventually, Linnea spoke again, her voice just above a whisper. "The hours," she said, gesturing with her cup toward the softly glowing discs on the floor, "like to be tended. It helps them remember their own light." She explained in her simple, thoughtful way that the hall was a library of peace, a collection of moments when the world had been perfectly still, and that their gentle care helped keep that stillness alive and vibrant. Her words painted a picture of a world full of hidden, quiet beauty and of the gentle, important work of preserving it. Soren felt his mind, already clear and uncluttered from his time in the hall, become even more settled. His thoughts were no longer racing or even flowing. They were simply present, like smooth stones at the bottom of a clear, slow-moving stream. He found himself noticing details he had missed before, the way the pale wood of the walls seemed to have a faint silvery grain that caught the light, the subtle variations in the hum of the mute tolling, the almost imperceptible scent of dried herbs, like lavender, that clung to Linnea's soft robes. Later, she led him to a small alcove where she tended to a single unusual plant. It grew from a simple earthen pot, its leaves a soft, silvery gray color with a texture like fine felt. Linnea explained that the plant never seemed to grow or to wither, that it simply existed in a state of perfect, gentle equilibrium. She watered it with a small amount of clear water from a clay pitcher, her movements full of a quiet, loving reverence. The act was a small, perfect illustration of the Hall's philosophy: gentle care, patient observation, and a deep appreciation for things that simply are. As he watched her, Soren felt a profound sense of acceptance settle over him. There was nothing to strive for here, nothing to achieve. The only purpose was to be present, to observe, and to appreciate. The gentle magic of the Hall was not in grand spells or powerful enchantments, but in its ability to quiet the mind and open the heart to the simple, profound beauty of stillness. The conversation he was having was with the quiet itself, and it was teaching him a language he had always known, but had long since forgotten. He picked up his polishing cloth again, the familiar weight of it in his hand, a comfort. He returned to the main floor and chose an hour that glowed with a particularly soft, golden light. As he began the slow, rhythmic work of polishing its surface, he felt Linnea's quiet, approving presence nearby. He was learning the Hall's ways not through instruction, but through gentle immersion, through the simple shared acts of care and quietude that formed the rhythm of this timeless place. Chapter 5. The Resonance Within. The time for Soren's departure arrived not with any signal or chime, but as a gentle internal knowing, a sense that his visit had reached its natural, peaceful conclusion. He had spent his days in the Hall, walking its vast, quiet floor, sitting on the long, smooth benches, and tending to the unuttered hours alongside Linnea. He had learned to feel the mute tolling not as an external vibration, but as a rhythm that now lived within his own chest, a steady, calming pulse that had become as natural to him as his own breath. On his final morning, Linnea met him near the great archway. The gentle, breathing light of the Hall seemed to warmly illuminate her kind face. In her hands, she held a small, soft leather pouch, and from it, she took a single, small, unuttered hour. It was one he remembered polishing, a disc that shone with a steady, reassuring light, the color of pale honey. It felt warm in his hand, its surface as smooth as worn silk, and its gentle internal hum was like the purr of a contented cat. "A piece of the quiet to carry with you," she said, her voice a soft murmur, "so you may remember the way back to your own stillness." It was not a souvenir, but a tool, a small, tangible anchor to the profound peace he had found here. Soren accepted the gift with a feeling of deep gratitude that needed no words. He simply inclined his head, a gesture she returned with a warm, understanding smile. He carefully placed the small disc into a pocket near his heart, where he could feel its gentle warmth and steady vibration against him. He turned toward the threshold. The great curved archway of pale wood that separated the profound silence of the hall from the sounding world outside. He felt a moment of gentle reluctance, a quiet wish to remain in this sanctuary of peace forever. Yet he also knew that the peace he had found was no longer confined to this place. The hall had taught him that stillness was not something to be found, but something to be carried. The resonance of the mute tolling was now a part of him. As he took the final step across the threshold, the sounds of the world returned. He heard the whisper of the wind in the sparse trees, the distant call of a bird, the soft crunch of his own boots on the earthen path. Yet these sounds were different now. They seemed softer, more distant, as if filtered through the deep and abiding quiet he now carried within him. The world felt less intrusive, its noises less demanding. The silence of the hall had given him a space within himself, a quiet inner chamber he could retreat to at any time. He began his journey away from the hall, his steps slow and measured. Every so often, he would reach into his pocket and touch the smooth, warm surface of the unuttered hour. Its gentle, steady hum was a constant, comforting reminder. The world outside looked the same, but his way of seeing it had changed. He noticed the gentle sway of a blade of grass in the breeze, the intricate pattern of veins on a fallen leaf, the soft diffusion of light through a passing cloud. The world seemed to be moving at a slower, more graceful pace, or perhaps he was simply moving through it with a newfound sense of unhurried presence. The path unwound before him, leading him back toward the familiar world, yet he walked it as a different man. He carried the hall's greatest gift not in his pocket, but in his heart. The resonance of the mute tolling was the new rhythm of his soul, a deep, silent song of peace that would stay with him always. The ending of his visit felt not like a departure, but like a soft exhalation, a gentle release into a world that he could now meet with a calm and open heart.